And in three, two, one. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Guide to the Grind, where we cover money, mindset, and momentum. My name is Jeff Eady. Joining me today, as always, the one of Canada's favorite mortgage brokers, the box of raisins to my Halloween treats, Mr. Jonathan Tilger. Jonathan, how are you today, buddy?
Well, it depends. I mean, how do you view the raisins? Do you like the raisins or do you not like? Some people despise the raisins in their Halloween treat. Some people love the raisins in their Halloween treat. So I got to know where I stand to you based on that comment.
I would say surprisingly delightful once you try them.
All right, cool, cool, cool.
And a nice break from the monotony of sugar.
I am doing absolutely phenomenal, especially with that explanation, and looking forward to our discussion today.
I thought that one out. So I just before we introduce our guest today, who I'm like super excited about. One of my favorite guests is, I believe, his third appearance on here. If you're listening to us, you like what we're sharing, please do us a favor, hit the like button, share the content. It really helps us get the messages out there. And I've been finding a lot lately that people who aren't telling us that they're following us are following us and watching these podcasts. So I really appreciate the live interaction, but I'd really appreciate if somebody can hit those like buttons and get more of this message there. So today I don't have the intro written out in front of me. I'm going to wing it a little bit, but I feel I know him well enough by this point. Somebody who's actually become a friend that started as a guest on the show. He has been in the U.S. Marine Corps, protected 3 U.S. presidents, is an expert in cryptocurrency and the investment space around that, as well as an expert in marketing and a member of the Two Comma Club with the ClickFunnels organization. Please welcome to the show, all the way from Lubbock, Texas, Mr. Zach Morrow. Zach, how are you today, my friend?
I'm doing good, Jeff. I appreciate you having me. I appreciate the generous label of expert. I'll do my best to live up to it and make sure that we can take care of some good business to get today. I look forward to visiting through and seeing where the conversation goes.
Yeah, well, I love that we really don't have a guideline for any of our conversations, but I have a feeling this one's going to go way off on some tangents. So let's go with it. First of all, respect the mustache, brother. Love it.
Yes. we we were visiting before the call, and that was the first thing. We both got to give it the Spider-Man point, like, hey, good. So
And I was clearly not given the memo before this recording. So,
well, we didn't mean to, but
somebody's got to look normal. Anyhow, Zach, you've had a lot going on in your world. I know you're working directly with some pretty crazy crypto dudes, and you really gave me my first intro into understanding crypto. So why don't we start with that? By the way, I'm about to make my first crypto purchase. It's a small one. It's $100, but I got to get
there
my
you go.
toe dipped because I've seen what Bitcoin's done since this time last year, and I don't think it's ever going to stop. It's just going to keep going. That being
Yeah.
said, Zach, why don't you talk a little bit about what you are focused on right now and what you guys have been doing since the big crypto blow up last year?
Yeah. So I guess it just depends on where you want to start. I think that maybe the first foundational thing to understand, right? And we've talked about this in previous episodes. So it'd be good, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch. But understanding what this market really is, what this asset class is an important factor to understanding where things can go. Okay. But where things have really been since we've last spoke is obviously you mentioned big crash, big changes, right? The market cycle in crypto tends to revolve around sort of a 4-year cycle. And then when you pair that with all of the different things with, global economy, the markets, inflation, all of that coming together. Obviously, that pullback last year was one that ultimately brought a lot of people out of the market that probably should have been out of the market. You saw some bad actors. You saw people who were over leveraging themselves, making poor decisions, and really not hedging their bet and making wise financial stewardship decisions. So one key lesson to take away is key stewardship, right? Understanding, portfolio allocation, understanding what you're investing in the cycles, or working with people that do. Okay, so I can tell you the guys that I'm working with through the fund Orchid Capital, that is something we're, kind of proud to say we were able to avoid the bankruptcies, the drawdowns, the FTXs, of the world through paying attention to the market, proper custodianship, things like that. But that kind of gets into some of the technical stuff. Where things are at right now, as we look at the cycle from a technical analysis position, you'd see that the market is still relatively down from its all-time highs. But when we look at market cycle, we expect this, okay? And as we look at market cycle, we're expecting that we will start to see sort of some shakeout and some continue maybe sideways, even a little bit of down movement over the next 6 to 9 months. Then as we approach a halving cycle, and if we look back on some other indicators, we anticipate that now is a great time for accumulation. So from the technical side, we believe that where we're at in the cycle is a great time for accumulation, really looking at the next 6 to 9 months to build positions. So start with that first $100. That is a great thing to do just because now you'll be able to keep your eye on it, right? Mm-hmm. You know, even if it's just open your app, keep your eye on it and see what's going on. But behind the scenes over the last few years, there's a lot of huge fundamental change, okay? Some of the largest institutions in the world are all working to open spot ETFs within inside the space. Major businesses, major corporations are building out systems to be able to coincide with blockchain technology. And so where we're at right now is from a price perspective, we got prices still down, right? We've recovered some, and there's been some growth over the last, X amount of months, but realistically, the market is still down, but fundamentals continue to rise. And when you see that divergence, and a lot of times that signals an opportunity to be able to build positions. And then as things shake out into the future, we expect those markets to continue to grow. So right now, we're focused on building positions, looking at key opportunities to buy at certain price points and key projects, and building positions within inside that space to set ourselves up for the next cycle, which we believe will be showing its face in 2024.
Can you touch a little bit on kind of, because obviously there's various investment, I'll say, markets out there. You've got currency markets, you've got stock markets, you've got so forth. And the stock markets, I'll say the ones I'm most familiar with as far as, yes, you've got technical things going on, but at the end of the day, when you're investing, when you're putting money into the stock market, you're buying into a company, and so there's a level of fundamentals, be it profits, be it assets, that are backing your investment, and essentially what you're investing in, that they're going to grow. On the crypto side, first of all, if you were to contrast it to a market, what market is it more closely correlated to? And the second thing is, what are the actual fundamentals that are backing up the money that's going into the crypto market?
Yeah. So as far as correlation, I mean, historically, you would say that it was something that was supposed to be non-correlated. But if you look at the way that people are trading it, I would say it most closely relates more to like your tech side, right? Because it's really something that, for the most part, people are treating kind of like a risk on, risk off asset. And so you're seeing some correlation there. But as far as like fundamental analysis, right? If we go big picture, we have to realize that blockchain technology as a technology is something that allows for data storage and really data security. And so the ability to validate data is something that all industries will have a need for and do have a need for. It's just done in a different way presently than what it might be done in the future. And blockchain as a whole really works under that simplistic understanding, is data. So assets within inside of that are building things in that sort of universe, if you will, to bring things into gaming, to bring things into finance, to bring things into medical, to bring things into real estate, right? All kinds of different markets. There are people working to bring particular assets within inside the blockchain space that will service those industries. Okay, so when you're evaluating projects, there's some neat things where you can do fundamental analysis the same way you might with a stock, right? Of looking at the utility, right? That's a key thing that we're always looking for. What's the actual real world use case for what these things are trying to do? We want real utility, right? Same thing, you want to look at the people behind it. Who's the team? Who's the builders? Who's the developers, right? Does it have a quality team? The same way you look at a company, right? We're also looking at something that's unique to crypto, which is on-chain metrics. So in crypto, because it works through a blockchain, you can see real-time data of uses of how many people are using it, who's developing on it, what's the actual, say momentum and utilization of that asset, which you don't have that. There's actually more transparency in that space from that perspective than there is, say, in the equities market. And so the same way we're going to look to evaluate a stock, we're really thinking of it more from that perspective, is how do we evaluate from a fundamental perspective, and then of course technical, depending on the way you're looking to invest or trade, right? Your time frames are going to dictate those two different things. So yes, there is a fundamental component and there's also a technical component, and everybody's going to treat those differently depending on their particular strategy.
Are there any, I mean, I know that they sort of trade in the coin, and the coin I think is kind of like, hey, that the coin is kind of like the share to the company that you're effectively investing in. But are there any actual cases where you can actually look and say, yes, here's the revenue stream that these guys are generating and how they're doing it ultimately while you're investing in?
In a lot of cases, it's transaction based, right? So there's absolutely revenue. So the way things move on chain, transaction fees are created through that. So if I have Ethereum and people are building and developing on Ethereum, every time Ethereum is being utilized, there are fees that are produced. So you have sort of a value to that coin, but then there's also things that create through trading markets like liquidity pools, where you have the ability to provide liquidity to the chain. So it's servicing transactions, and then transaction fees are coming back and things like that. So there's a revenue component, there's also a utilization component, and then there's kind of a price component, which is what it's trading at. And so, it's the same. There's similar ways to look at a business, right? Are you, trading a stock for, a long term, which would be more of an investment? I want to buy and hold because I believe that this is going to be worth more in the future than it's worth today. Focus on that price appreciation. Or am I looking from a technical component with inside the charts saying that, I believe, Tesla is going to be, having a fall off tomorrow because of X, or it's going to have rally tomorrow because of X. I might have a short-term move where I'm more trading it. So again, what you're doing with inside the space and how you're, shall we say, investing into it is going to dictate the different things you're looking at.
And are there places where you can go to? I just want one last question on this, but are there places you can go to actually understand? You mentioned Ethereum, to actually understand what's happening, the revenues coming in. Is that information readily available, similar to it is for a stock on a company?
Yeah. So first and foremost, with anything, you probably want to start with the white paper, which is put out by the company. Something called the white paper of what this is doing. Okay. It's kind of a memo out to the world of here's who we are, here's what we're doing, here's what's happening behind the scenes. And then from there, right, it's going to be dependent on what you're trying to actually accomplish, right? So the basics, right? So if you're just starting out as basics and you want to go look at different things, I mean, Coin Market Cap is a great place to go and look, right? There's different places like that you can go and do some research and start there and then build up.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know, Jeff, you're looking to jump in, so I'll throw it over to you.
No. So I was just writing a note as you guys were talking there. Zach, all right. So I try to understand this space as best I can.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand it at all, because the more I dive into it, the less I understand, which is really an oxymoron, but it is true. You put me onto some information, and holy cow, it's like Pandora's box once you start getting into it and trying to understand it. How do you specifically help your clients? Because I'm imagining that your clients come in with probably a little more knowledge than I have when it comes to crypto and all that jazz, but you guys do things very differently. How does the process for a client who's, we'll say, got more money than knowledge in this area, how's that process work?
Yeah. So our process would not be too terribly different than what you might expect of going into, any other investment where you're making a decision, right? So from a general structure, I would say kind of our flagship fund really works as what we would call like an actively managed index. So we, as a team, are selecting projects to more or less put into an index where we are managing, monitoring, and making trades within inside that space to help produce a return. right? And so that is a great spot for somebody who is looking to gain exposure to the asset class, but doesn't necessarily want to go and spend the time to be the investor themselves. Not all that different than how most people would go and invest into a particular mutual fund, right? So you're going to be able to come in, you're going to meet with the team. We're going to discuss, obviously your understanding where you're at. We're going to get to know you. And then from there, you're able to go through and understand our strategy in more depth, different things that we hold, different things we invest in, how we're selecting our investments, and what that process looks like. So it's generally just conversation based and then sharing information back and forth. We, just like we're doing here, jumping on a video call or meeting in person and kind of working through the data.
And you've said this before, you guys use more tier 2 technologies as opposed to actually coin-based investments?
I would say that, especially with our flagship fund, it is focused pretty heavily on what is called layer 1.
Okay.
So these are like a base layer where other projects are built upon them.
So that would be like the base layer of the blockchain itself?
So it is its own blockchain.
Okay. Okay.
And then its system is made to where other projects can go and build upon it, right? Kind of think of it like a city, right? It's more infrastructure based. So you're kind of investing in the infrastructure. And then in that city, you have a lot of other businesses and things that go and build itself inside that infrastructure.
That's a good analogy. That helps an idiot like me understand a little bit better. I'm thinking Sim City back in the 90s. So how does it, like, if somebody wanted to get involved with what you guys are doing, is there a minimum? Do they have to be in the US? Do you guys take investors all over the world? How does all that work?
Yeah. So we do take investors all over the world. There are minimums, and it just a little bit dependent upon the route you go. Typically, that's going to be in the 6-figure range, depending on the fund. And then there's some requirements in terms of like net worth requirements, income requirements that are put out kind of by federal regulation that we have to follow as well. So, the number one way just to get in contact would just be emailing me. And so I don't know, is that something you would share or?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Well, I'm just wondering what,
No,
if
of
you want
course, of course. Share it. I'll put it in the
Yeah,
post. I
no,
don't care.
yeah. So if you wanted to contact me on that side, it's Zach, ZACH at Orca Capital, ORCACAPITAL.io.
Okay. So that's cool. I really like diving into the crypto stuff, but I get that like blank stare on my face when I'm listening to it because it's so in depth. It's obviously fairly new in the grand scheme of things, although it's not that new overall. I mean, it's been around since what, 2009, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. I actually got one right.
That's really good.
Still fascinated with the whole pizza day thing. That one's
Yeah.
that one's a little crazy, but where do you see this space long term going?
I mean, it's hard to say exactly. We believe that there is a lot of room for upside, especially over the next 5 to 10 years. And I think that some key things that are going to be dependent is getting some more regulatory clarity from the US government, especially, for our US based investors. So that's something that is continuing to develop. And then I think that very soon you will see the spot ETFs coming available, and this is going to become an asset class, at least, for your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, where your Fidelities, your BlackRocks, your big boys like that will have those abilities where all of their investors will get access to basic transactions through their portfolio, which that immediately brings an incredible amount of money, support, and backing to the actual asset class itself. So I think the first question that people have to decide is whether or not they believe that it's going to be here in X amount of years or not. And if they don't, well, there's no reason to spend any time looking into it, right? But if you do, or you at least think it might be, then I think it's worth taking some time to understand some basics and begin processing how you might want to incorporate it in your portfolio. right?
What kind of returns can investors expect, at least with you guys?
um, we of course can't make any um, forward-looking statements in that regard to tell you what we can do.
Historically, what have you done? How about that?
I can tell you, you know, I can tell you that we have done triple-digit returns net to investors in a year. You know, so
Wow.
you know, if you even incorporate last year since inception, I want to say our net to investors that we started 2020, so January 1, 2020 through today, I think net to investors is around 290%.
How does the algorithm work? I know you're not gonna be able to give us the secret sauce, but I know you guys have proprietary algorithm that sorts through all this stuff.
So actually right now we are primarily trading manually with our team. So our team is really focused on the asset management, project selection, and then we have some trading that's involved there as well. But on the algorithmic side, that really falls under just other company.
Okay. So should we steer away from that then?
I mean, I'm happy to talk about it. We're actually working on some designations right now to be able to bring that into our family of funds. So if you want to talk algorithms, we can absolutely do that as well.
Let's talk it, baby.
Where do you want to start? So
Well,
maybe start with like what an algorithm is.
Well, no, I understand the basics of an algorithm. There's not a whole lot of things that I understand about the tech, the crypto world, but algorithms are just basic sorting programs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for those that are watching, one of the
All four
fund,
of you.
the principal at the fund, a gentleman named Jeff Seckinger. So Jeff has a separate company named NERP, NURP, and at NERP, they are in the business of developing trading technology. And so at that company, they build trading technology. They then have a system where individuals can license that trading technology and utilize it inside their own account. Okay, so through the development of that, yes, there is obviously a benefit where us as a fund, right, can bring that technology over, utilize that technology. But at the NERP side, it's NURP. So if you're wanting to go check it out, NERP.com, NURP.com. The company itself builds trading technology. As a client, you're able to have your own trading account. So you have a brokerage account. That brokerage is designed to trade. The team at NERP will work with you. They bring, the ongoing development. They bring the customer support. Basically, we got people that have never traded a day in their life who are coming in, getting started, and within a matter of a week, they can be up and running, have their own trading account, connect the system to their account, and then it is executing its trading strategy at the brokerage itself. So I tend to tell people it's like buying a Tesla. It's designed to drive for you, right? Like you own it, it's yours. You can sit down in the driver's seat. There's some different buttons you can press and push, and you can press the brake or turn the steering wheel. You're in full control, right? But like the Tesla, it has programs and protocols built into its system where it's reading the environment all around it to make all your driving decisions, right? It's the same with the trading algorithms, right? It has specifics in terms of what it's trading, where it's trading, the full trading strategy, the entries, the exits, position sizing, all of that is built in to the system where then it is reading the charts day in and day out, making the trading decisions. And so that's been doing really well for clients. I can tell you as a company, the system has been live for about 2.5 years. We're trading real money in real markets. And they opened it up for licensing to clients this time last year. So right now, and this number obviously is subject to change, but as of October 23rd, 2023, the average client return is sitting at 12.03% per month.
Per month.
Per month,
and that
yes.
and that's trading. My understanding, so I
Wow.
looked through that. That's multiple markets, correct? It's not just one market. They can choose the market they want to trade in.
Yeah. So each algorithm, right? They have 4 that are presently available to clients. And 3 of them right now are focused on trading currency, not cryptocurrency, but this is like the US dollar versus the euro, or the euro versus the Australian dollar. So what some people call Forex, so foreign exchange currency. So, I know we trade the Canadian dollar, the Japanese yen, the Swiss franc, the Australian dollar. So these are your major countries' currencies that are actually being traded. And then they also have an algorithm that trades gold. I know, like on the development side, it's a little early for this, but I don't mind sharing. Development side, they are working on some stuff in the crypto space, also the equity space, looking at some algorithms that might trade the S&P 500, things like that. So, the company's job first and foremost is the development of the technology, and then from there, providing all the support, the education, the customer service, so that clients can then use that and operate it within their own account. And I'll tell you, the learning curve is really not that difficult. Like I said, it's like a Tesla, right? There's not much to learn to sit down in the driver's seat. You know where the brake is, you know how to turn it off and on, you know how to turn the steering wheel, but ultimately it's designed to drive for you. So clients aren't spending much time. I think the general disclaimer we share is, you need to be prepared to spend at least 4 hours a month, monitoring it. But I run it myself, and for me personally, I probably don't spend more than 5 minutes a day.
Wow. That's crazy. How does that process work for somebody?
That one's pretty simple, right? You can go to nerp.com. Same thing. You could email me. If you email me on this side, I do have an email for this company as well. So that's my first name, Zach.Morrow, MORROW at nerp.com. So, I'll tell you, for people starting, you need to be prepared from the system side. You're looking at anywhere from, I'd say on the lower end, like 12 to 20K to start. And then you need to have investment capital on top of that realistically, you'd probably want anywhere from 10 to 20K on that side for a minimum investment just to get trading. So, that would be beneficial for anybody that's in a space where, they've got anywhere from, we'll say 20 to 40K minimum. And if you're in that space, then you'd probably be a good candidate to come take a look at it.
No, I like that. You're bringing that down for folks that actually, working people have an opportunity to get in this.
Yeah. And there's so many restrictions on the fund side, of who we can work with and who we can't. And the minimums are obviously significantly higher. And so, these aren't my companies, right? They're Jeff's, but what we have on the NERP side allows people to have access to be able to go and really see the benefits of trading without being a full-time trader themselves, right? Obviously, there's some basics of startup. There's some work that's going to go in it on your side, and that happens with the team. But again, we got people who never traded a day in their life, but once you get up and running, it's one of those things that the system is the heavy lifter. It's not like Zach got good at it, and so Zach did really good, but Jeff, unfortunately, you didn't put the time in, buddy, and
individual results may vary.
No, but because the reality is, it's the one doing the work. So if me and you are running the same algorithm in the same way in the same settings, right, then we're going to have not identical results, but pretty darn close.
All right, now, if you don't mind, I'd like to switch gears a little bit because you brought something into my life that has just caused me terrible frustration, and has also become something I'm super, super passionate about, and that is online marketing.
Okay.
How'd you get started with that?
Well, simple story, right? Trying to solve a problem. I was working with a firm, and the firm I was working with was looking at how we might attract more clients, right? Which is what marketing's for. Pretty simple problem to solve there. And the initial question is, well, if we're going to need to get good at marketing, how might we do that? And my simple answer in a lot of ways is not necessarily like how, but like who, right? So not how do I go become the best marketer, but who is the best marketer that I could get around to learn from and potentially leverage their expertise, right? And so you can use that thought process in anything you're doing. Is you don't always have to be the one to solve the problem that becomes the expert, right? You want to find the right team, the right people. So who you bring in is really important. And so, this was back in early 2018, and ended up going to a conference called Funnel Hacking Live with Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels, and got to know their group. They pretty much said, hey, if you're looking to speed things up, join this mastermind group, and we're going to help accelerate and help you build the system and understand marketing and understand ads and put it together and help generate clients. And they did what they said they could do, So that was kind of the entryway for me getting into marketing. So at this point in my career, I personally don't oversee any marketing myself, but I think that everybody, no matter what stage you're at in your business, you need to understand the marketing process, the sales process, the operations process, so you can effectively manage teams. But yeah, so I'm rambling now, so I'll let you take over.
Well, no, because Jonathan and I have been diving deep into this since you introduced us to it back in I guess the start of this year. And we've both gone through the books and have them on audio. And boy, listening to Russell Brunson at double speed is really tough. But
For sure.
I just find it fascinating to go from zero to a 2 Comma Club award winner, which for anybody who's not familiar and indoctrinized into that.
We lost you, Jeff. Sound wise.
There it is.
You can hear me now?
Yep.
Technical difficulties. There we go. We're back. Sorry. I hit my cord here. No, I find it fascinating that somebody can go to making over $1 million a year with a marketing platform from zero. How long did it take you to get from zero to a 2 Comma Club award?
I think it was a year.
Wow.
Yeah. So we went to the conference in 2018, and we went back to the conference in 2019 and got the award. But it just depends on where you're at, right? So we already had a business that was working, right? We had a business that was growing with clients and, track record and things like that. So we were obviously starting from a different position. Some people are starting from scratch. And I will tell you, there's faster 2 Comma Club awards than us. But if you're starting from scratch, you have to figure out obviously what you're wanting to do, where you're wanting to apply, the strategies. But if you're somebody who has a business and you're looking to grow that business through online marketing, which, let's be honest, everything is essentially going online. Their strategies are great and they're continuing to evolve. They really stay cutting edge. And so, yeah, for us, it was taking something that was already working, applying this new stream to it so that we can generate new clients. And that's how we were able to do that.
And how closely did you follow the system, or did you fight or try and reinvent the wheel as you were doing it? Because that's always one of the biggest challenges I've found with any system is people try and reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. Systematically, I mean, the way things are written, Russell really teaches you how to think as much as what to think, which I think is incredibly important. And so in a lot of cases, you are having to brainstorm and you are having to utilize the how to think method to help create the offers inside the business, because it's not just what you're doing, but it's how you're presenting it and it's where you're presenting it. And so there's absolutely was a lot of trial and error. Okay. You can talk to, the biggest marketers out there. I've met a lot of them, and even for them, the first thing they're going to tell you is you have to test it. Right. So anytime you're starting something new, there's going to be multiple tests and you're looking for feedback. So it's getting in, seeing the response, getting feedback, making adjustments, and continuing to adjust to what's going to work well for your market. So, Russell's done a good job at this point of deciphering data and figuring out which sort of systems work best or more closely fits certain types of markets. And so I would definitely defer to him and his books there on that in terms of what might be best for you. But to answer your question, you know, we worked to follow the system, but it definitely took a while to get the system to work for us. And we went through, you know, many variations and continue to learn and adjust along the way.
Well, I think that's, personally, I think that's one of the hardest things any business owner can do is think from the client's point of view as opposed to from their own. Like everybody
Mm-hmm.
knows everything about their business and they always want to share everything about it, but that's not what the customer is necessarily looking for. You
Yeah.
might have the greatest widget on the market, but that guy, he's not looking at the Zig Ziglar example I always come back to is nobody buys a drill because they want to drill. They buy a drill because they want a hole.
Mm-hmm.
And if your drill is not good at doing you, if you're not good at telling them how that hole can be the best hole ever, your drill doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So I really enjoy the process of understanding how the psychology of the client works. Do you find that knowledge of how to think about the client's wants, needs, desires still helps you in what you're doing now?
Yeah, 100%. So I would tell you that sales and marketing ultimately boil down to being able to understand ultimately what you're selling, right? And what you're selling, like you said, is the whole, or what you're selling is the outcome in most cases that why people showed up, right? So when somebody gets on a call with me, they're looking for some sort of change with inside their financial portfolio, right? And I have to understand what's driving that, what they're looking for, and whether or not we may or may not be a good fit, right? So the psychology around it is something that I enjoy learning. I know you enjoy learning, and the answer is yes, right? Whether you're selling, whether you're marketing, right? Whether you're constructing an offer, right? You always need to be asking yourself, who is this for? Like, who is this best going to serve? And realize that each business does not serve everyone. There's particular people that are looking for what you have to offer, and you need to understand, how do I find them? Where are they at? What are their needs? What are their wants? What are their desires? What are their pain points? And being able to dissect that. And then you can work that into how you speak to them, right? How you market to them, because they're going to be attracted to those things. They need to know that you're there and understand them, right? So you want to work with people that understand your problems, people that, listen, people that are going to take care of what it is you need. So,
So I'm going to go a completely different direction here. And this is more of a personal question, because I don't know if I haven't really talked too much in the last few months. But I joined the fire service in my hometown. And I find it really interesting to go from an emergency scene to sitting at a desk and sending emails or things like that. And having had the past military experience that you had and serving, under three different presidents, protecting three different presidents, how was that transition for you from that life into your life now? How long did that take? And what was like the mental process? Because they're like just such different things.
um, so your question is, what was the process like in transitioning?
Yeah, and like what was that like for you? Because I'm finding now that it's very strange that I can go to an emergency scene and then go back to regular life right afterwards. And I can only
Yeah.
imagine what it's like, doing something as dramatic as protecting a president and then, working from home in your office to sell investments.
Well, a lot of things happened between then and now. And I think with anything, the process is gradual, right? So, for me, it is, I'd say like the biggest constraint is like in the military, everybody, for the most part, at least by design, is there with a unified mission. And so the way you can speak to each other, the way you can operate together, the way that that everybody's working toward the same common goal allows for your interactions to be completely different. And I just find that for the most part, you know, whether I was, back in school or whether I was, building my own team or working for groups, um, you don't tend to have that same sort of unison, the unity. And so my biggest struggle, I think I had opened my own business after leaving the military. And so my biggest struggle was like wondering why everyone working for me was not nearly as effective or efficient or, as they were prior, and trying to figure out how to actually communicate to people in a way that would bring them to that desire. And I processed everything from like how I was, with the assumption that this is how I am, and I assume everybody would be driven by the same things as me. I assumed everyone would be, disciplined to the same way as me. They would be, passionate or whatever it was in the same way as me. And I tried to design everything for what I would have wanted if I was in their shoes. But then ultimately, I realized that most people were not like me, and they wanted different things. So, that was probably the hardest lesson for me to learn, was that, and I think this goes back to the conversation we were having before, is your client, your customer may not be like you at all. And it's the same in all relationships, whether you're in a sales relationship, a marketing relationship, friends, family, spouse, whatever it is people generally aren't wired the same way you are. And if you can realize that and understand what they are looking for and what would serve them and what would bless them and what would make them feel good and feel happy and served and whatever it might be, the capacity of the relationship, then you'll tend to have a much simpler time. At least that's what I've learned. So that was probably the most difficult thing, was just getting through that.
No, that's really insightful. I just find that now, having worked in an area where it's abnormal, we'll just say, it's really made me think a lot more about the transition from like somebody who has seen combat and flown, jets or helicopters or whatever, to retiring and coming back and living in, the continental North America and trying to get a regular job. And just that those skills aren't, they're not necessarily concomitant, if you will. Like nobody needs to know how to drive a tank in order to work at Home Depot.
Sure.
And I'm even seeing it to a lesser degree right now. I used to work in the film business, and with the strikes that are going on right now, I've been talking to friends who are now going out and getting jobs that they've never had before because they need money coming in, and the strike's been on for like 2 or 3 months now. And like a buddy of mine who's a location manager slash assistant location manager is out doing renos and tearing down barns. And that has nothing to do with the job of a location manager. And it's just interesting how people, the process they go through mentally to transition, and some are able to do it and some are not. And I was just curious more on a personal level how you did it.
Yeah. So one thing that I don't want to say it was a motto, but something that is, I'm sure majority of people in the military have heard, is improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Mm-hmm.
So part of your guys's sort of slogan is mindset for the podcast, right? And you have to have it in your mind that regardless of what is in front of you, you will figure out a way. And that has to be a non-negotiable, meaning that that's inside of you and it's never a question. Doesn't mean it's not going to be hard, doesn't mean it's not going to be difficult, but if you can start from the mental framework that somebody else can do it, you can do it, right? And I will find a way. I will, whatever I got to do. If I got to improvise, I'll adapt, I'll learn, I'll adjust, and I'll overcome. So it's really just a sort of winning mindset that regardless of what's in front of you, you've already pre-negotiated that to where you're going to make the adjustments. And so, my mindset has always been, there's nothing I can't do. I just have to decide what I want to do. Right. So whether that's true or not, irrelevant. I believe it. You know what I mean? Like, I joke like I don't like running. I didn't like running when I was in the Marine Corps, right? They made me run way more than I ever wanted to run, right? I enjoy being physically fit and doing a lot of physical activity. But if you said, Zach, do you want to go run a marathon? There's probably never going to be a time where I want to do that, right? But
Not
if you
Goggins.
said, yeah, well, and he's even doing it for his own mental discipline, right? But if you ask me, Zach, could you run a marathon? 100%.
Yeah.
Like if I had to go run a marathon right now, I'd get it done. Would I get it done fast? Probably not. Would I get it done? Absolutely. Right. So it's already a non negotiable that whatever's in front, I will find a way to make it happen. So I think that that's kind of a prerequisite for navigating change, right? Is you have to have that hope of the future, right? Um, I think hope, you know, and that will to continue is imperative regardless of what you're transitioning for. So I know that's not like a daily applicable thing. It's more of a broad mindset take there, but
Well, just
I'm
just a segue, because I think it is very daily applicable right now, especially where the market's at and what's going on. Because obviously we've had a lot of change over the last particularly year and a half in the market in general. I mean, obviously, my main thing is working in real estate, and there's a lot of people who are struggling right now because rates have gone up, what,
yeah,
5%. We went from rates of 2% or sub 2% to we're now 6% plus right now. And so just that ability to adapt, to change, to, as you say, to find a way to just, okay, things aren't as they were. I've got to make some changes. If I want to keep this or do this, you've got to be able to adapt. And that's one of the biggest qualities I say of humans is our ability to adapt and be resilient. And
mm-hmm.
that whole part is so crucial. And when we're in times like we are right now, with a lot of change happening, that's probably one of the biggest skills you can have just in life.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So on that, one thing is just remaining open minded as well. That's a part of it. Is
Hmm.
you can't be overly fixed on exactly the way you've always done things, right? If all the world around you is changing, the constants are now variables. And so whether you're in work or in business, or investing, you have to understand that if things are changing, it's always important to keep an open mind and pay attention to the things that are happening around you that impact your goals, right? Whether that's health goals or wealth goals or business goals or family goals, relationship goals, understanding, the way dynamics are changing and being willing to adapt with them is important, right? And you make the adaptations and the changes ultimately to reach your goal. Same thing going back to, the 2 Comma Club, right? We had a system that was supposed to work, but there were so many adaptations within inside that system where you're just learning from failure continuously, right? And I've got 2 kids. Something that I think I share with my kids on a regular basis is that, like, failure is not final, and there really is no, like, failure is always an opportunity to learn and grow. As long as we're growing, you're in a great spot, right? So having something not go exactly how you want it to is totally okay because you're just learning from that, right? And the only thing that's final is giving up, right? Quitting is the ultimate failure. Change is not the same as quitting. I think there needs to be an understanding of that too, because some people think, well, if I quit my job and make this change, that's different. You make a change to get closer to your goals, right? Sometimes you have to quit certain things because it's ultimately in the best interest of where you're trying to get to. So, we don't have to strong arm everything and, continue to break everything down in front of you. Sometimes it's just easier to take one step to the side and go around the wall than go through it.
And that's the difference between knowing, or that's knowing the difference between persistence and stubbornness.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's true.
I think it was Kevin O'Leary I heard say that. I was like, ooh, I wonder which one I am. A little bit of both. I always love where our conversations lead to, Zach. I know it's the top of the hour almost. You have another appointment at 2 o'clock. Well, 2 o'clock our time. I don't know what time it is for you, but I want to respect that. Anything you want to leave the folks off with that are listening?
Man, no, I appreciate you having me. I think that you're in the right spot. you're asking questions, you're learning, you're growing, you're looking forward to what's ahead. Continue to hold on to that. And I think you're going to ultimately end up where you're supposed to be. So stay with it, guys. Appreciate you tuning in.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. JT, anything you want to leave off with? Nope, somehow he's muted himself.
Just, I was going to say, pleasure speaking with you, Zach. I know you and Jeff connect a little more regularly than you and I do, but very nice connecting with you. Glad to hear that you've turned the corner from where you were at a year ago. It's part of that persistence and moving forward. So
Thanks, Jonathan.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, man. Thanks so much for coming back on. I have to make it down to Texas for longer than I did last time. I know I did send you a text from DFW when I was changing planes, but next time I'm down there, I promise I will be there for a little longer than an hour. Yeah, appreciate you. Again, where can people find you if they want to get a hold of you for NERP or for Orca?
Yeah, I think email is the best. If it's NERP, just nerp.com and urp.com. Plenty of information there. If you're interested more on the Orca side, Zach at orcacapital.io.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Zach. Really appreciate you. Always love chatting with you. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to know more about what we're doing, you can always go to guidetothegrind.com or reach out to us, Jonathan at mortgageplan.com, or just Jeff at, I have so many email addresses, just jeffeady@gmail.com. That's the easiest one to do. Again, gentlemen, thank you so much for being on the show today. Jonathan, always appreciate you. Zach, always appreciate you. And I'm so glad you tuned in from Texas. Have a fantastic day, folks, and we will see you soon. Having trouble signing this one off.